Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about the expansion of the Roman Republic. So previously we discussed the establishment of the Roman Republic and some of the main features and components such as the Senate and the consuls, and today we're going to talk about how that young republic grew and expanded its territory. So over time, Rome goes from a small little republic in the middle part of the Italian peninsula to taking over the entire Italian peninsula, and then finally it'll basically take over the entire Mediterranean. And it does this through a variety of wars and conquests. So Romans were committed to an idea that we call imperialism. So this is when you go out and you establish control over foreign lands and people, usually by conquering and war. So in order to do all that conquering, you have to have an army. So the Roman army was one of its best assets. At first, the soldiers were just citizens who were brought into the military to serve their country. They were very loyal and well trained. The basic military unit was called a legion, and in every legion there were 5,000 to 6,000 men. These legions were broken down into smaller groups called centuries that had 100 men, like 100 for century, cent. And this made the army really flexible and allowed them to be quite dominant because you could deploy a certain number of centuries in one place or move a whole group of centuries to a different place, or you could deploy entire legions wherever you wanted them to go. So originally these men fought without being paid. They actually had to provide their own sort of like weapons and uniforms. But this was in the early days. Eventually they were given a small paycheck, but their main compensation in war was a share of whatever they won in victory. So a certain percentage of the treasures or wealth, slaves, and other things that they captured along the way would be distributed among the soldiers. So here's a picture of what a Roman legion might look like, all lined up on the battlefield. You can see they've got some armor, their shields, and other weapons. So one of the main wars from this time period is a series of wars called the Punic Wars. So as Rome continued to expand, it came into conflict with this area called Carthage. And Carthage was a powerful civilization on the northern part of Africa on the coast. And so, of course, as one territory or civilization expands, it's frequently not just expanding itself into vacant land. So some of the territory that Rome wanted was already occupied by other people. So between 264 and 146 BC, Rome fought a series of wars, 3 wars with Carthage, and these wars were called the Punic Wars. The word Punic is the Roman word for Carthage, and that's how they get their name. So here's a map to take a look at how territory was roughly distributed before the Punic Wars started. So you can see that we have Rome over here occupying pretty much the entire Italian peninsula, and then this purple area here is Carthage. So they have the whole North African coast and part of the coast of modern-day Spain. So across the Mediterranean Sea, they are fairly close to each other here. So they were definitely rivals. So the first Punic War, which is 264 to 241 BC, starts out being fought mainly at sea. And this was a disadvantage for Rome because Rome's armies were used to fighting on land. And they had a really strong infantry, which is foot soldiers. They did not have a strong navy. So Rome had to adapt, and they ended up doing this by, first of all, getting themselves a navy by building hundreds of ships. And then they used their army, their infantry, to their advantage by adding a special little device to their ships, and you can see that in the picture. So it's called a corvus, And if you look down here in this drawing, here's this Roman ship, and here's another ship. And a corvus is this little bridge that goes across there, and it could be raised and lowered on like a pulley system. And so what they would do is they would sail up next to a ship, and then an enemy ship, and lower the corvus. And then, as you can see in the illustration, the soldiers would board the enemy ship, and then they would just fight hand-to-hand combat on the enemy ship. So earlier we had talked about the Greeks and their technique of ramming into enemy ships, but the Romans were just not that good of sailors, honestly, and so they didn't utilize that particular Greek technique of ramming ships to sink them. Instead, they played to their strength and designed this ramp bridge thing called a corvus. So the First Punic War, you can see it lasts for a pretty darn long time. It's not like it was just one individual battle. It goes on for over 20 years. But the end result is that Rome defeats Carthage, and it wins some territory. So it wins the islands of Sicily, down at the boot end of the peninsula, the toe end of the boot, and it also takes over some other islands, Corsica and Sardinia. So then the Second Punic War comes several years later, and this time Carthage is out for revenge. So they were pretty upset about the terms of defeat from the First Punic War. They had to pay incredible penalties in the war and continue to pay Rome these war taxes, essentially, after the fact. Reparations, I guess, would be a better word. At any rate, they were not happy with the situation as it was settled. And so over time, they slowly rebuilt their army and wanted revenge. And so in the Second Punic War, we hear about Carthage's most famous general, whose name is Hannibal. And he had the idea of invading Rome in 218 BC. But he's not going to just sail across the Mediterranean and invade Rome directly. He gets this notion that he's going to lead his army of about 40,000 soldiers and 37 war elephants, and he's going to march them over 1,000 miles from Spain through the Alps to Italy. Now this is a tremendous idea. No one had ever conceived of anything like this before, but Hannibal decides this is going to give him the advantage and that this is going to be the winning strategy. So here we can see some illustrations of Hannibal himself here and what his parade of war elephants might have looked like as they crossed the Alps. It was a horrible journey. They started in the fall. He didn't want to wait for spring. So by starting his journey in the fall, he ended up crossing the Alps in winter. The conditions were awful. And along the way, a third of his men, most of his horses, and all but one of the elephants that he brought with him died. Hannibal presses on, though, and once he gets to the Italian peninsula, he's able to reorganize and make a plan of attack. So he wins a bunch of different battles all across Rome, and he's destroying cities sort of left and right and basically terrorizing the Italian peninsula. And then we get to a major turning point battle called the Battle of Cannae in 216 BC. And this is a kind of a classic story of the underdog outnumbering and outwitting the more dominant force. So Hannibal has about 50,000 troops. The Romans had about 80,000. But what Hannibal had was a better strategy. So he set a trap and lured the Romans right where he wanted them to be. And it led to what some people have called the greatest ambush in ancient history. At the Battle of Cannae, we have 70,000 Roman troops dying in a single day. Here's a picture, a couple pictures of how this formation worked. Hannibal here is the blue, the Romans are the red. And this is how he set up his troops. The Romans sort of pushed into the center, which was Hannibal's idea. He had weaker forces set up here in the center, his stronger forces on the ends. So in this picture, you can see he let the Romans push in to the center, and then he circled around and basically surrounded them and then slaughtered them. So after his completely decisive victory at Cannae, Hannibal makes an interesting decision. Instead of attacking Rome straight on, he offers Rome peace terms. And this was a typical kind of thing for someone to do in this sort of situation, but Rome was not your typical enemy, and Rome refused to accept defeat. The city of Rome itself was really heavily fortified, and Hannibal didn't attack the city directly, but continued to have battles kind of on outside the city. So the Romans are getting sort of sick of being terrorized by Hannibal, and so this young Roman general, Scipio, or Scipio, depending on who's pronouncing it, he decides he's going to change strategies. So instead of fighting right there in Rome, he leaves Rome in 204 BC and he sails to Africa to go attack Carthage itself. And so this forces Hannibal to leave Rome to defend his own homeland. So he basically lures Hannibal away from Rome by starting a fight in a different location. So using this clever strategy, Scipio won a decisive victory over Hannibal in North Africa at a battle called the Battle of Zama in 202 BC. Hannibal ends up fleeing to Greece in exile and later kills himself by drinking poison. So at this point, Rome is rid of Hannibal, who had just been a major source of frustration for them, and they're feeling pretty happy about winning this second series of Punic Wars. So at this point, if you take a look at this map, you can see what we're talking about here. So this red line right here is Hannibal's route through the Alps. Amazing. He has to go over some really intense mountain ranges to get there. Here's this Battle of Cannae, where Hannibal was such a decisive victor, comes up here by Rome, comes down here, and then finally has to sail back across. This area is the Mediterranean Sea, to fight this battle at Zama. And you can see some of these other ones. All the brown are Hannibal's victories, and kind of the orange are Roman victories. So you can see that they're fairly evenly distributed throughout this series of wars. Here's another map that shows essentially the same thing. You can see Hannibal's route in red, and this one gives more detail about different battles. So you can see we're not just talking about one particular battle. There's all kinds of battles. There's Cannae right there, and there's Zama. So finally we get to the Third Punic War. So this is a while later. Time's gone by. It's now 149 through 146 BC. And in this Third Punic War, the Roman general, again, Scipio, except this is the grandson, so this is Scipio the Younger, he captures and destroys the city of Carthage itself in 146 BC. So the Romans are just really wanting to completely eliminate and annihilate Carthage and remove it as a threat once and for all. So the Romans burned the city after they captured it. They spent 17 days burning it to the ground. There had been somewhere between 250,000 and 500,000 people living there during that time period, and there were only about 50,000 survivors after this whole siege had taken place. So the survivors were either killed or sold into slavery. And now the Romans were free from this threat of Carthage and were the undisputed rulers of the Mediterranean. So here's sort of a summary of the Punic Wars. The first one, Rome is the winner. The second one, it's sort of a draw in that Carthage really wins this huge battle at Cannae, but then Rome wins at Zama. So they really are the winners in the end on that one. And the Third Punic War, Rome wins again. So here you can see our final slide. This shows you the territory at the conclusion of the Punic Wars. So everything here in yellow, this is, well, starting off with red, this is the original Roman territory, then they take over the peninsula, and then they add all this territory in yellow. All right, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the video.